Delta, Lord, you know, money don't grow on trees. 19 and 15, easy and a 15, honey caught the wrong side of the law. Judge said 30 days in the Delta sun. I never mind working, even though I done no wrong. Get me out of this old tin-pan alley and get me down to New Orleans. I might find a bluebird singing timeless tune or two, just hanging in the breeze. Went down to the crossroads, got a date with the devil baby. Even though
All right, that was Flash Mountain Flood performing one of their original songs. Flash Mountain Flood is Logan Green, Wes Rather, Derek Oll, Paul Kopolis, and Tanner Clark. So, hey guys, that was outstanding. What was the name of that song we just played?
That one's called Timeless.
Excellent. Well, we'll talk about that in just a minute. But why don't you guys give us a little introduction? How did Flash Mountain Flood become a band? How did you guys originate?
I grew up here, or went to middle school, or moved here when I was 9, actually, so came here in elementary school. But I met Wes in high school, and we started seeing Further, Bob Weir and Phil Lesh's band of the Grateful Dead.
So down at like Red Rocks or whatever?
Exactly, yeah, Red Rocks, and yeah, exactly. And that Red Rocks, seeing them at Red Rocks was kind of the inspiration for us, just to, for that, that feeling, I wanted to, me personally and him to, finding Wes, we wanted to, feel that way every day, and, because we knew Further, Bob Weir and, the Grateful Dead is long gone, and, Further was going to be,
calling it quits pretty soon. So we wanted to keep doing that type of music and not just be a Dead cover band, but kind of write our own tunes and
keep it alive for people our generation to experience.
When did you guys the two of you started writing songs together? What did that look like?
Looked pretty bad at first. No, we were just jamming around in the house, on 2 guitars and
we pretty much learned together. So none of us are neither of us are really musically trained. The only, I was picked in like 5th grade to be the band's, drummer out of like an audition from like the class. But besides that, that's like the only.
So we'd play around on a few
kind of credentials I have.
It sounded good. Maybe throw on some spotted lyrics to that and.
Yeah, just played until it sounded good.
So then, how did things start expanding from there? Who's the next member to kind of stumble along this experiment?
We found Tanner somewhere. I don't know, but he held rhythm perfectly with us, and he had enough space and feel to just complement everything we were doing.
Right.
And then
and Wes knew Tanner from high school,
right?
From his first high school as well. So I met Wes in high school, and then Wes knew Tanner from his other high school that
I got kicked out of.
Wes is the badass of the group, if anyone's wondering.
And then we found Oles, and we said, hey, we know you're really good at playing. We know you're really musically inclined. Come play bass with us.
Yeah, we also I knew Oles from my, growing up in Boulder. So, Wes grew up in Louisville, and so did Tanner, right there, which is, right next to Boulder. But
and we found Paul hanging out at Sancho's one night.
I was thirsty.
Snagged him out of his other band, said, you're going to play keys with us now.
Now, I seem to recall, I saw you guys open for the Golden Gate Wingmen, and I think Paul was part of the band, and you weren't, Derek?
No, neither me or Paul were in the band at that point.
Back at Owsley's on the patio,
yeah,
right?
it was on the patio.
Yeah, and at one point we did have a different bass player.
And a horn player, maybe.
Well, that guy was just hanging out with us that day.
Oh, okay.
And he was playing on the song. We knew him from around. I think he plays in
Boulder Sound Lab now.
Something like that. And after our original bass player left, we pretty much just bullied Derek into coming in.
I wasn't even a bass player before.
Yeah, you played guitar, right?
Yeah, I mean,
he played
messed
everything.
around with the bass, yeah.
he played with Dakota, our original bassist, but he was a little bit like, more, he listened a little bit better. So he ended up fitting, even a little bit better. After Dakota, he knew how to play. We kind of took Dakota from Oles's and Phelan's band at first, and so our original bassist, and then he, we knew once Dakota left, then we knew that he was a great player as well, and it's worked out great.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of what I noticed, that, the band sort of progressed in being able to use the word listen to one another. I think that's been one of the biggest
A major
improvements.
part of Flash.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys seem to be playing as a 5-fingered hand, right?
Right.
Definitely.
Which is really nice to see. The show that you guys played with the Jaunty opening, I really noticed how that was something that your audience fed on, was having each player kind of stand out on their own. And so why don't you talk a little bit about how you interact with your audience when you play some of your live shows?
That's an interesting question. Especially for something like the Fox, it's we try to push so many high energy songs, and we try to do that and really get the crowd really pumped up and everything. And I think that's what's cool about us, is we can do that, but we can also play, like a slow country song, tear in your beer kind of song, make you cry a little bit or something.
Yeah.
So speaking
we can
of,
feel out really a crowd, if it's whether we're playing in a small room with 10 people in
we
there.
see the crowd. We make sure, we try not to lose them.
Yeah, we try to keep them interested.
we lose them every once in a while. But.
well, speaking of, tear crying in your beer kind of songs, that last song we just heard there, why don't we talk a little bit about that? So where did that come from? Wes, you were saying that maybe you had started that a few years ago?
Well, when I was in college, I took this history of music class, and we learned a lot about the real beginnings of what we know to be blues and country music. And Alan Lomax and John Lomax in the turn of the century went down to the deep south in search of what they called folk music, and they were going around and finding these guys in their shacks playing cigar box guitars and singing blues. And they would bring around the old recording thing with the horn, and they would just record it there. And that was back before radio, back when the only way you could learn music and circulate music was through like shape notebooks and things like that.
Notebooks that they were building just by traveling across the country and finding people. Like, when you think of a song like House of the Rising Sun, you don't know who wrote it. Probably just because these guys were traveling around the country and just recorded someone playing it, and they're like, who knows who that guy was, And
the big inspiration for that was that it really started everything we know to be modern music and our modern music scene that we are into. Like, after that, there were kids in England picking up on the blues, Beatles, Rolling Stones, and then Monterey Pop. All that stuff led into, jam band music and festival type of music and all that. And so it was super, just felt like an important story to tell.
Yeah, it's like a timeless tale, and it's, and it kind of ties into a lot of what we feel about Flash, is like we're very deeply rooted in like American music, because that's something that's, it is from America. Like he said, even though we came from Britain, now people back in Britain are stealing our music and playing.
Nothing wrong with change, but I'm a traditional kind of a guy too. I love baseball and good old traditional things. So
American band.
But with our own jam band, but pay respect to that type of stuff.
But
we
the
like
song
to do
"Timeless" in itself, I started helping Wes write it, and what I got out of it is kind of like paying homage to like American music, and like that's like the roots, and that's like our country, and that's like,
because if those guys didn't go down there sweating in their Ford, no AC, no radio in the car, probably was a horrible trip, But they did it because they knew it needed to be done, and it really created so much that we use and respect today.
So would you say that the Lomax brothers are co-authors of that song in a way?
It was a dad and son.
John Lomax, maybe.
Right. But I get, yeah. I mean, it's their story. So we just wrote it down.
Yeah.
I guess in our weird way. I wrote the first verse and the chorus.
It's truly
and then he
about.
finished it up.
It's actually about Huddy Ledbetter, who's known as Leadbelly, and he's one of the original blues musicians. And
Right.
Alan Lomax actually discovered him in a jail, and like somehow like arrange some way to like record him playing or whatever. And then Leadbelly
Probably just paid off the warden.
Well, yeah, and Leadbelly was a crazy guy. He ended up going back to jail even after he became like a working musician back in that time. So that song's like it's the focus of it is like Leadbelly and them finding Leadbelly, who is kind of like the beginning of blues and a lot of the beginning of the blues.
Changed the world.
But it is kind of like a country feel of a song, so that's kind of funny.
Well, that's fantastic. Maybe we should play another song now. What are you guys going to play next?
We got a new song of ours called Long Jaw that I wrote along with my lyricist, John Granzo. And
Grands.
we're really happy about this one.
All right. Well, let's take a listen.
Sweet.
Thanks.
Long jaw, shovel the dirt, shallow enough to climb right out. A long time coming, Lord. Meet me here and now. Winds picking up, and I can't see through the dust, and all these folks around don't care for me no more. Just 5 feet down, just a little further now, and it's 3 more counties wanting me in the ground, in the ground. And I was around her all my days, running with nothing in my way. And I found it easier to steal gold. No work for me, sir, gotta hit the road. And I owed the hangman for some time. What was theirs is all now mine. Take what I need in a foot of snow. Not my fault, just all I've known. The guy became my calling card, according to Silver City. Surely a deeper grave they could have dug for me. jaw, shovel the dirt. Shallow enough to climb right out. Such a long time coming, Lord. Meet me here and now. Such a long time. Such a long time. Come on, shoulder. Come on, shoulder. Now shoulder. Long jaw, shoulder. Just 5 feet down. Just 5 feet down. Just 5 feet. I'm just 5 feet down. Just a little further now. Just a little further now. Just a little further now. Just 5 feet down. 5 feet down. Won't shovel the dirt, babe. Just 5 feet down. Just 5 feet. Just 5 feet down now. Just a little, just a little, just a little further now. Don't shovel the dirt. Gotta get right out. Gotta climb right out. I had to climb right. Gotta climb. Just 5 feet. Come on, shovel the dirt. Come on, shovel the dirt. Just a little further now, babe. Just a little further now. Just a little further now. Long jaw, shovel the dirt. I'm just 5 feet down. I'm just 5 feet. I'm just 5 feet down. jaws shovel the dirt, shallow enough to climb right out. Just to climb right out. And all these folks around. Such a long time. Such a long time. Meet me here and now.
All right, that was Flash Mountain Flood again playing Longja, a new song that they've composed. Tell me a little bit about that song. Where did that one come from?
Well, my lyricist John Granzo gave me the words, and when I read them, just felt kind of like a sad type of country song there, and so I tried to write music to fit it. Really, I added a few lines here and there, and it just really fell together way better than I could have imagined with the band.
So do you guys have like a specific songwriting? And this is the lamest question ever. Like every band gets asked this stupid question, which is, well, explain your songwriting process. You guys don't seem to me to be a band that goes through a lot of formalities when it comes to songwriting. Why don't you help me understand when someone's got a song, what does that look like? How do you approach the band with it? How do you develop that song?
Well, for a song like Longja, really the best. Well, I could say it like this: the best songs write themselves, right? And you just write them down. You're just there. You're there long enough thinking about it in that space to write it down. And so with something like Longja or Timeless, you have a story to tell, and you just want to write the music that fits those words, and the singing is the story, and I mean, I don't.
Wes,
From my perspective, I don't know. It's kind of like the first time I usually hear songs. I really haven't written any Flash songs, but Logan and Wes will kind of just play it on the acoustic guitar. I think "Timeless" is a great example. The first song we played, where the first 10 times I probably heard it was just Oles sitting at a fire, just yelling it at me and saying this is going to be a sick song, which it eventually did. But it was kind of cool when we first played it as a band. We tried it really, really slow. We tried it really, really fast. We tried to make it a little more like country funky kind of. It's just kind of amazing how after 3 or 4 times we've played it, it's really just kind of, as Wes just said, just kind of came together. So I know it's a little different than the songwriting, but especially when, bringing it to the rest of the musicians in the band that didn't write it, it's kind of cool just seeing the song unfold from an acoustic, picking song to a full-blown rock.
That's kind of the process. Well, it starts, Wes and Wes is and Oles, us three have written the most songs, Wes the most, so he's kind of he's brought the most songs to us. But so it starts with just, individually we have different. Wes writes, more, it's not so necessarily simple, they're more thought out songs for sure. So they come to the band and he said, there's we'll try some songs slow, we'll try them fast, we'll do different things, and then
but sometimes like a song like Longja,
see what sounds
I
best.
had kind of a vision with it, and with writing it, I knew where it wanted to go a little bit more than a song like Timeless, where it kind of just fell together to be we all contributed to make it that way and feel like that. Because when we first wrote Timeless, it was much more of a country song, and now it feels like a shuffle blues type of thing a little bit more than the way that I wrote it originally. But like Longja or 1936, there's things where you you know where it's trying to go, and you have to convey that to the band, and not necessarily hope, but like try to make sure that everybody can understand that and get on the same page with how the song wants to be.
But that's kind of what's the cool part, is that we all are on a very similar page. So it's crazy how we do all work together very quickly when we bring up a song, like almost like with Longjaw. It came together, and Wes was really excited about it because he had the idea of it. Like, he showed it to me on acoustic guitar, and I could only really feel so much and really get as much as I can out of just him singing it and playing on acoustic guitar. But when we all bring it to a band, and like almost like you said, like we're all like 5 fingers of a hand, like each person puts like a different aspect and different feel to the song, and it's crazy that it can just start out just like throwing some chords together.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's
and it's
the
just
process,
some lyrics, and then
much.
when we bring it together, like it all turns into this whole like thing, and it's like, whoa!
We
it's
try to
crazy
push the
sometimes.
story out a little bit. Yeah.
Well, one of the
changes.
things that I like about this band is the kind of depth of playing that does happen. There's some tricks out there. We've got a B3 organ basically that got picked up, I think, this last year, right, Paul?
Yeah, I had to go through about a 2-hour interview process. I had to dance like a monkey. I had to play it. This guy down in Colorado Springs does great work with organ, so I was fortunate enough to know a friend of his that he allowed me to purchase it. So yeah,
Built
it was
in
a little more.
1936 too.
It was actually built in 1936 too, which is pretty cool.
The name of one of our songs.
Name of one of our
I
songs,
want to
yeah.
talk about that song actually. So that, again, kind of referring back to that show at the Fox, that song in particular, for whatever reason, grabbed me, and that's about the 1936 flood in Pennsylvania, right? The Pittsburgh flood, is that what that is?
Actually, it's about the Monarch Mine in Louisville, Colorado, where I was born and raised, and both my grandpa and my great grandpa worked in that mine, and my family was based in Louisville for a long time. And in 1936, one night, the mine blew up from some horrible explosion, and there was some poor guy trapped down in the mine, and after they were sifting through the rubble, they found pretty much just his like skeleton sitting crisscross applesauce, like down in the dirt, and you saw his footprints running, and then they slowed down, and so after doing a little research on the internet about that song, or about that story, poor guy like sat down to die, and he had no way out, so. and it means a lot to me, especially because of my family heritage working in that mine, and I was born and raised there, and even growing up and hanging out at my buddy's house in Old Town Louisville, his dad used to tell us that Miner Joe used to haunt his house because the entry to his basement was one of the entrances to Monarch Mine, so like that, it's a story that I thought needed to be told, and the song fell together way better than I thought.
Yeah, I really like 1936 because when Wes wrote it, when Wes wrote, we were I think me and him were both on a pretty big country binge, like listen to a lot of country music, and we're big fans of like good old country, and that like you can have a feel it's slow and really gets you a feel in the song and the lyrics, and then we can get to a point where we're rocking it out, and I think that's really like the essence of country. So that's like, I love playing that song so much, and I think it's really cool. It's one of the things we're doing, like trying to integrate that idea of country music, because people kind of get a little strayed from it because they think of like Toby Keith or whatever, but there's good there's still good country out there and stuff like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of mining history in the county, and I don't think a lot of people even realize that. We're currently doing the interview here in South Boulder, just up on near Shanahan Ridge, overlooking Marshall, Colorado, which at one time was the roughest town in Colorado, right?
Right.
It was a mining town, and they had an Italian town, a Chinatown. They had all of these workers there. I think it's really interesting that you've picked up on that and continued that with the heritage of this band, right? That becomes part of who this band is. That's really cool. Because 100 years ago, we'd probably all be miners. I mean, that's
right. Absolutely. Black on our face,
Yeah.
working hard graveyard shift.
Yeah, and the mining around here was not like what people like imagine, like in these great, awesome caves going down in these. They were like on their hands and knees and on their sides. It was really, really rough fucking work.
Yeah.
Can we swear on this podcast?
We can
just
swear.
did.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. Shit.
Shit. So in any case, thank you for sharing that. I, for whatever reason, thought it was about a different thing entirely. And so there's the power of music, is that it can be like about many different things.
Right, and that connects, and like that's the point of it too. If it'll connect with you for that flood in South Carolina, like you said, or
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Your story sounded good too.
Yeah, you can interpret the song however you want it. I think that's like the thing with any songwriting, or the power. Especially one thing with especially the Grateful Dead, they didn't Robert Hunter didn't want to explain his writing to people because every single person almost interpreted the song a different way in their own way and in their own daily life.
As it should.
So that's a cool part of it too.
Well, the other secret weapon that I feel like you guys have is that your rhythm section's really strong. Every time I go see the band, that's really kind of the driving force. And so I'm kind of wondering, Tanner, I know that you end up being somebody who, just kind of sits back there and takes care of business. But as we're talking about songwriting, we're talking about interpreting songs for the crowd. What kind of contribution are you bringing to the band that you feel fits into all this?
Well, for me, when they bring a song, what I really want to do is give it a lot of texture and feeling and give it that groove that's not there without it. Really bring it to life as a full orchestration, really do a lot with dynamic work and those sorts of things, because, really make it a full song. Really bring it to life is how I think about it.
It feels like at times you're the one kind of kicking these guys in the ass a little bit. Like there's times where the song seems to be kind of lurching along, but then Tanner, you step up. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I try to. If I feel it's getting stiff, if it's just not there, I really try to give it some life, give it some energy, bring it down, bring it up. Because especially the way we play songs, we'll play for 20 minutes maybe and have these long improvised solo sections and stuff. It can get easily stale, boring, but it can also go so many different places. And I think the drums are just a huge part of that. So I really try to bring
And I
that
think
to it.
one thing that's pretty cool about Tanner's playing is, I've had the opportunity to play with a couple different drummers, and I've never played with a drummer that allows for so much space within the song. So like just thinking about how some of these arrangements are, especially some of the more complicated ones that Wes puts together, it really wouldn't make sense to have a drummer that's, playing rock and fills and doing a lot of crazy stuff. Like Tanner's playing, I like to say it kind of sounds like the Allman Brothers of the Grateful Dead, where they had two drummers playing at the same time, neither of them which are, hitting too hard on their skins. They're just letting the song breathe, and Tanner's kind of able to do that as one drummer.
I really like to play off of them. So when, they get into a certain section or a certain feel, and I feel it needs to come down, I'd like to lead them while following them. So, yeah.
That's a good way of putting it. Well, right on. Maybe we should go ahead and listen to another one of the Flash Mountain Flood songs.
Yeah, do you guys want to play?
Easy Chair?
Yeah, let's do a cover.
All right, here we go.
Pack up your bags, put your tent in the wind. You ain't going nowhere. Ooh-wee, ride me high. Tomorrow's the day that my bride's gonna come. Oh, we gonna fly down to the easy chair. Genghis Khan and his brother Don, they could not keep on keeping on. Climb that bridgeway after it's gone. Keep moving past it. Ooh, ride me high. Tomorrow's the day that my bride's gonna come. Oh, we gonna fly down to the easy chair. Well, buy me a flute and a gun that shoots, tailgates and substitutes. Strap yourself to that tree with roots. You ain't going nowhere. Ooh-wee, ride me high. Tomorrow's the day that my bride's gonna come. Oh, we gonna fly down to the easy chair. Ooh-wee, ride me high. Tomorrow's the day that my bride's gonna come. Oh, we gonna fly down to the easy chair. Ooh-wee, ride me high.
Well, all right. That was Flash Mountain Flood playing. Which was that?
That was a Bob Dylan cover.
You Ain't Going Nowhere.
You Ain't Going Nowhere. All right. Well, you guys have a pretty big show coming up here. New Year's at the Fox.
Yeah,
sir.
Tell me a little bit about that show.
Well, yeah, we're going to be playing this with Mora Mora, which is another local band in Boulder.
Some good friends of ours.
Good friends of ours. And then there's also Banshee Tree, which personally has been a band that I would go see almost like every Saturday night. They're a gypsy jazz band that kind of integrates other sounds into
Really
it.
awesome
So
players.
it's a very interesting sounding band that you can't really see too often. So I
Great
think it's going to be a
vocals.
really good night of music.
Yeah, so that's New Year's Eve at the Fox. I know I'm going to go.
Sweet.
Basically, I'm going to keep it local and stay here in Boulder and go see Flash Mountain Flood play the 10 to 12 slot, which is great because I can be home before it's
it'll be good to have you.
But the other reason I'm going is not just because of this that they're playing at the Fox. It's close to home, but because I love going to see this band. One of the things that Flash Mountain Flood means to me is kind of a continuation of a musical history that Boulder has had for many years, but we've been at risk of losing in recent years. There's not as many venues that are out there for bands to play. There's not as many bands actually willing to play something other than maybe bluegrass. And so this band has represented for me kind of a continuation of something, a spirit that really Boulder really owes itself to support. I know these guys have worked really hard in the last couple of years, and this last year in particular, you guys said, 150 shows this last year?
Yeah, I think we were did almost 130 in 2015, and this year it's got to be at least 75. So, it seems like a lot of shows, but we enjoy playing so much that, it's kind of just part of the course for every week. So
And a lot of that really we have to owe to Jay Bianchi for having us do residencies at both Coyotes and Owsley's, really letting us figure out what the hell we're doing and become a band at all, and
Yeah, I mean that's how I really first got to know you guys, was seeing you open for Golden Gate Wigman, but then that Wednesday night gig that you guys played for a year, right?
Year and a
Right,
half,
yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
Who knows?
long time.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate what he did up here. I hope he's able to come back to Boulder. I know he wanted to be in Boulder for a long time, and now Owsley's RIP, man. I'm sorry that it's gone.
Yeah.
Miss it.
We're really sad about it.
Tear in the beer.
That's
Beer
where
and
my
beer.
son
Yeah.
played his first gig ever in a band, was there in the
Right.
dining room
Yeah.
of Owsley's, and
a lot of people's first gigs, are with him. So
yeah, it's cool.
that's
Yeah,
kind
we're
of his
so
thing.
fortunate.
Yep.
Absolutely.
And I appreciate the statement. That's totally what that's kind of our goal, is to we really love Boulder in this town, and the history, the musical history, the musical inspiration. There's a lot of big name to look up to, and a lot of people, like you said, just great musical history from the fans to everything here, the whole music community. So
And when we first started it, because of that, it didn't seem so impossible to become a band and maybe make it happen and make it meaningful.
Yeah, there is sort of a family feeling that I get. I'm a little older than you guys, so I'm not of your peer group, but I see you interact with your peer group, and it definitely feels like you've built kind of a family around you to help support this machine that's going on.
Definitely.
And you talked about learning how to play music together. I wonder, Wes, if you could talk a little bit about what you see in Logan's playing and how he's developed as a musician in the last few years.
It's just incredible. I mean, from back, I remember seeing him just around high school at parties and stuff, and just being really impressed with the way he could just play and feel out these lines that just felt a lot bigger than he was, or that we could be, and things like that. So I saw a real future there with him, and he brings the climax of every song to just way higher than I could have ever imagined it when I'm writing it, or with covers and things. He gets the country parts just perfectly, and the blues just perfectly, and it's just, you can really just feel how big that sound is, and it's just so, it's almost like psychic how he can tap into that and just unlock it, and it's just bang, now we're off.
And he'll never overstep his part, And I think that's one big part about us all is, you could be Eddie Van Halen trying to play a million notes a minute or whatever, but we just feel it all out. And that's one thing about Logan is he really has like a feel for every song we play and really makes the crowd feel it too, I think.
Yeah, I talked a little bit about secret weapons in this band, and why don't we have someone here, maybe Logan or Paul, you can help me here. Let's talk about the advantage of having a singing bassist in the band.
We have a lot of vocalists. It's pretty sweet. I just from my perspective, I really like when I go to a show and there's different vocalists, every song. I think it adds a really nice breadth and depth to the band's repertoire. Us, for example, I love when we have a set list, and Wes is probably the biggest stickler on the set list, and we always ask him ahead of time what the sets are, and sometimes he lets us know and sometimes he doesn't. It might be because sometimes he might not know either, but I always admire that we're able to have Logan lead a song, have Wes lead a song, and then have Derek lead a song, and singing bass player, nothing gets the girls more excited. So
yeah,
prove it.
And I
prove
think,
it.
And I think for us especially, it's
single bassist.
Whoever has if there's a good voice in our band, we want to utilize it. I'm always pushing Paul to sing too, so when we first picked up Oles, he had a great voice, and I said, and Logan would agree, like we just pushed him to broaden our repertoire a bunch and just add that really good texture part of it, because it's another good voice.
Right on. Well, what's been one of your most memorable gigs to date? What you've played a lot in the last couple of years. What comes to mind if I say, yeah, Paul, you want to answer this?
Yeah, I think a really good example of Flash Mountain Flood's sound is there's a really cool ski manufacturer in Breckenridge. They hand make powder skis. They're called holy crap, this is embarrassing.
Rocky Mountain
Underground. Sorry, friends in Breck. Rocky Mountain Underground, but they're a bar. They make skis, and they just built a little music venue in their backyard, and that was really memorable to me because it was a lot of people were just kind of hanging out, drinking. They were just grabbing beers. It was a really kind of quiet afternoon, and we came out really quiet and kind of just played to the feel of the environment, of being in the mountains and everyone. And as more and more crowd came up, we just kind of kept turning it up, made it a little more rocking, and by the end, it was like a full-blown rock show. But I think that's a really good example of a Flash Mountain Flood show, and one of my favorite shows was the last time we played there, just because we got to we got to play for 3 hours and show everything from our best country tunes, our more funky tunes, all the way to our straight up rock and roll ones. So that would probably be one of my favorites
in that show.
Yeah,
and
then obviously our debut headlining show at Fox, that was memorable, and then we got to play a private party at Red Rocks, and then which got us backstage passes and stuff, because the private party wasn't actually on the Red Rocks stage.
It was for the Long Strange Trip. Showing at Red Rocks. Yeah.
Right, so we got to watch that the Long Strange Trip about the Grateful Dead, an inspiring force to us, and
what a unique night too. That was like a really a lot of weather.
Right,
it was crazy. But we were backstage, so it was okay.
Yeah, So yeah, lots of memorable, things, and in this past year too, especially, it's been
one of my favorites that we just we kind of kicked off this last year was playing at the local planetarium, which is
that was another cool one.
Is at CU. And it's like, I grew up, I went to University Hill Elementary School, which is right across the street. So I used to go to that planetarium when I was like, 6, 7 years old.
Yeah,
and
see Laser Floyd on Friday nights and stuff.
So it's pretty cool to be like stand up on the stage watching freaking the cosmos
with lasers,
flying all over the place, and then a freaking like LSD molecule.
Yeah, they put the LSD molecule up there for us.
We didn't ask them to do that either.
And
that
like
was
Machu Picchu or something like that. So yeah, it gets wild.
And that was a big turning point for us, because that was when we noticed we could sell a decent amount of tickets.
Definitely.
And kind of make the jump from Owsley's or like a bar to a venue. And then we took that attitude and got into the Fox a few months later, which was, like Logan said, one of our huge feats.
So beyond New Year's at the Fox, New Year's 2017, what else are you guys looking forward to coming up here in 2018?
Something that's kind of cool about that run is we actually have the New Year's show, and then we're playing in Crested Butte on the 29th and 30th, which is just an awesome warm up. But after that,
so
we're
3-night
playing
New Year's run.
Yeah. Some things we're looking forward to really are just we have a lot of more shows in the mountains. We love playing in the ski towns in the winter and love playing festivals in the summer. Like Nedfest, for example, we played this year. We're really excited to get back to the festival circuit, and we're really excited to start recording an album with some of our friends. And as opposed to kind of rushing and trying to record something in 5 days, we're really excited that we found a place and some people to help us record it over a long period of time, so we can make sure everything is dialed in, because we want our first album to be amazing. I don't know, you might want to talk about that, Logan.
Yeah, our first album for sure. Yeah. We that's the thing kind of with a lot of bands, like going back to we appreciate your statements on the Boulder music, and your thoughts about us. That's kind of our goal, and and that's the thing is there's not a lot of bands that kind of I feel like just they take their time at this at our age and at this stage so we know a lot of people who have already released which is great getting in the studio recording music and getting it out, but we want to wait until we're really solid, so when our first album comes out you can put it on a playlist with our the music we want you to maybe compare us to, or feel like you're listening to that rock and roll and blues and country and whatever, so put it on a playlist with the Stones and Jimmy and the Dead, and
we want it to hold its own.
So we want it to be pay respect, be an actual rock and roll album, and not just a garage band album,
Well, you heard it here first. Splash Mountain Flood is going to release their rock and roll album in 2018.
That's right.
Going into the studio. Already been in the studio, continuing some studio work. That sounds fantastic. And that's Splash Mountain Flood, who are Logan Green, Wes Rather, Derek Oles, Paul Kopolis, Tanner Clark. And you guys could check them out. They're playing in Crested Butte, December 29th and 30th, and then at the Fox Theater on New Year's Eve, December 31st. Thank you again to Splash Mountain Flood.
Thank you, Ted.
Thank you, Ted. We love you.
Yep.